Hey, you, why haven't you subscribed yet? Hit the subscribe button and the bell. Enjoy the video. LSU will play at Vanderbilt.
Okay, I like that.
And will host Missouri.
All right.
In its extra SEC games in 2020. It will be confirmed here shortly on the SEC network, but this means LSU will make its second consecutive trip to Nashville to play Vandy, and then Missouri will play here. And interestingly, Missouri's only trip to Tiger Stadium as a member of the SEC was Ed Ogeron's first game as interim head coach after Les Miles was fired after the Auburn loss in 2016. The following week in Tiger Stadium, it was Missouri coming in against LSU that day, and LSU's offense opened up beautifully and set all kind of SEC records that day, and Mizzou will now come back to Baton Rouge. Thoughts, reaction to that?
I'm really surprised. I'm shocked that it wasn't Bama twice, or we had to play Florida again, or whatever it may be. No, this is good. I'm happy about this. How did they go about picking these teams? Like the ping pong ball thing, or what was that? So
we don't know yet. I'm sure we'll get this via the SEC Network show and how they go about it. But what had been reported was that it was initially the plan that many talked about was using the next 2 years rotating cross-divisional opponents. So for LSU, next year they're scheduled to go to Kentucky, and then the following year they're going to be home against Tennessee. So that was the thought. They'd go Kentucky, Tennessee.
Okay.
Well, the problem with that model is you had two teams that really would have gotten screwed, Bama and Florida. And you better believe that Bama and Florida, if they're going to get screwed, are going to make a lot of noise about it. So Florida would have added, already having played Georgia and LSU, would have added Alabama and Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
And Bama would have added, obviously, Florida, but also Vanderbilt. So Bama rather, would have had to play both Georgia and Florida and LSU and Auburn and the rest of their West schedule. So what the league effectively did here was go by a strength of schedule model. And I think the only real fair way to do that, unless if someone else has a better idea, is you look at winning percentages from teams from last year and you try to make your opponent's win-loss record equal, as close to average as you can, 1-14 in the league, when you consider the other opponents on the schedule already. Now, the West is obviously going to be tougher because it's just a deeper league than the East is, where you've got top-heavy with Florida and Georgia, and then a significant drop-off thereafter. I know a lot of people are high on Kentucky, which returns a lot defensively. Tennessee went on a hot streak last year after a really awful start to the season, losing to BYU and Georgia State. And maybe they'll be better. South Carolina had a brutal schedule a year ago, and they were going to have a brutal schedule again this year when you consider having Georgia and South Carolina on your schedule and then a trip to Baton Rouge. So I think they looked around and tried to mix and match as best they can to make the schedule as equitable as they can, top to bottom. So I'll be interested to see what the rest of the league looks like, what the rest of the draws are, but this is how it had to be for LSU. You're already going to play Florida and South Carolina. So the other 5 teams, you're not going to play Georgia, because if you're going strength of schedule, you're not going to play Georgia and Florida from the East. So that left Kentucky, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Missouri. Well, LSU's next 2 rotators are Kentucky and Tennessee, and there was some word that they didn't want schools to play their next year's rotator. So like LSU wouldn't have to play Kentucky 2 years in a row. Well, if that was the logic, then I would have thought, why would you play last year's team either, right? Mm-hmm. Which was Vanderbilt, but that's what they're going to do. So LSU's going to play Vanderbilt in Nashville again, and then they'll play Missouri at home. So, good?
It makes sense. I wonder at what point, though, when you're talking about the East and the West, obviously the West is going to be plays the harder in division schedule. But, I mean, I would have to think that the Missouri and Vandy, taking away what you said about playing the schools next year, absolutely the best 2 schools LSU could have hoped to have played, right?
There's not a doubt.
Yeah.
It could not have been better.
Right.
Vanderbilt remains abysmal under Derek Mason. How he has a job still, I don't know. And Missouri is a team that's going through transition. They fired Barry Odom, and they hired Eli Drinkwitz from Appalachian State. Now, it's not only the who you play, but the when and where also. So a game against Missouri, if that game were at Missouri in late November, maybe it's a little different because you could be dealing with snow.
Yeah, the weather.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But that game's going to be in Baton Rouge, so the weather it's a non-factor. The other road game you're adding is Nashville, which, I mean, Vandy has no home field advantage. Like, it's the problem Vanderbilt has had for years is the fact that the opposing fans regularly outdraw the home fans. So they have no home field advantage in Nashville. And even considering this year where you're going to be dealing with less or no fans, you're basically just going up to Nashville to play a game. So, I mean, it could not have been better. If there were two teams in the East this year that some are maybe looking at saying, okay, that could be a team on the rise, it would be the other two. It would be Kentucky and Tennessee, because Kentucky returns a lot defensively, and they get their quarterback back this year. I mean, last year they played Lynn Bowden at quarterback, who was a receiver. Their quarterback got hurt. They ended up moving a receiver to quarterback, and they still managed to get to a bowl. And then Tennessee, as we mentioned, you got Garantano back for his, he's been there forever, but
seventh year.
We'll see if he ultimately keeps that job or if one of the young quarterbacks that they signed ends up taking it from him. But either way, those are the two teams that anybody would pick as the most likely to make a jump this year in the East, would be Kentucky and Tennessee. And so you avoid both of them. You've still got your trip to Florida. You get South Carolina coming to Baton Rouge. You go to Vandy and home against Missouri. Like, I don't know how you could have hoped for anything better. You get Alabama in Baton Rouge still. I mean, you're by far your toughest road games. You've got to go to Florida and to Auburn and A&M as well. Yeah. But we're also going to see there, Rhino, if they shuffle the schedule at all, right? I mean, because this is something that very well could, it's likely to happen.
What do you mean?
The games aren't going to be in the same dates that they had originally been scheduled, because you're starting September 26th. I mean, there were some conference games the first 3 weeks of the season. And now you're pushing the start back to September 26th. And you're building in 3 additional weeks of leverage in case if, team drops or if there's a COVID outbreak and you need to move it. I mean, the SEC championship game has been moved back to December the 19th. So it's been moved back 2 weeks. So
you said team drops, like just says I'm out.
No, I'm. If they can't, like if there's an outbreak and for whatever reason they have to move a game, right? So they've built in that buffer now to where they can rearrange. They've given themselves schedule flexibility to where if there is an outbreak and a team can't play, now they could say, okay, well, you've got these built-in open dates. Can we move the game to this date? For those two teams, does that work? So that's a possibility. I got a tweet from Michael C. who said, I'm shocked the conference gave LSU, Vandy, and Mizzou. You shouldn't be. Because the notion among LSU fans, like, that somehow they were going to get screwed is just laughable. It's a laughable notion. Like, nobody bitches about a schedule more than LSU fans. It's true. Like, I'm an alum. I have LSU on my shirt today, okay? But there's no fan base that bitches about a schedule more than LSU fans. It's true. LSU bitches about having to play Florida every year. LSU fans are whining like little bitches right now about this. It's true. Like, it's how it got. Like, that's what you do. That's what LSU fans do.
Foreskin and bitches.
That's what it is. It's what it is. It's just a reality. Like, I mean, in some respect, look, I hate the permanent opponent. I do. It's no other league does it because it's a stupid thing. But there's no fan base that complains more about the schedule than LSU fans. There's no fan base that thinks they get screwed with the schedule more than LSU fans. Like, the rest of the league is tired of hearing it. And this is another example, like, it is just you. Like, it's your perspective. It's your perception of how things are. If you're going to play out a strength of schedule model, this is how it had to work. LSU was going to get Vandy, Mizzou, Kentucky, Tennessee. It was going to be 2 of those 4. And it worked out the way it did. You came in here going, we're going to play Bama 3 times. But you want to know why? Because you're an LSU fan.
That's right.
And you think the league's always going to screw you.
I think it's probably in the hometown of all the schools. It's probably the same way.
But it's not. Yeah. That's it. Like, Riney, I'm telling you.
Rhino.
Rhino, I do radio interviews in every city in the SEC. Okay? Just like I have guys on who do shows, in other markets. I go on their show. There is no other market in the SEC where a fan base, a collective fan base, is so singularly focused on thinking their school gets screwed by the league in scheduling than LSU.
Well, it's because
there's not even a close second. There's not even a close second.
The SEC headquarters is on Alabama's campus. So of course. Yep. And Saban's the one calling the shots. Everybody knows that.
It's funny how no one ever used that example whenever Mike Dubose was the head coach or Mike Shula was the head coach or
Nick
Dennis
Saban.
Francione was the head coach. But it's bogus. Like, you don't get to be selective. Nick Saban, when he was in Baton Rouge, no one said that.
But he hadn't won all the rings yet.
Oh, God, it's so stupid. It's nonsensical. Here's the fact of the matter.
How pissed are you if you're Vandy? You're like, oh, God.
What do you, Vandy, like, it doesn't matter who you draw. You're not going to win a game this year.
That's true.
Vandy's not going to win a game.
You're right.
I don't care. Like, they're not going to win a game this year. Vanderbilt, I think they beat Missouri last year, and that's when Derek Mason did his old, I'm the guy for this job. Don't ever question me. Like, your winning percentage is 20. Come on, man.
Yeah.
So LSU hosts Missouri and Vanderbilt. There's going to be a lot of people. I'm certain my email, Twitter, the YouTube chat, all of it, I'm certain all of these people are going to crush me for this. But you know what? It's true, LSU fans. Sack up, okay? Put your big boy pants on. Nobody's out to screw you at all. It's the nature of how things are going to work, okay? But LSU, this works out exceptionally well for LSU. You get Vandy in Nashville, Missouri at home. It could not have worked out any better.
Wonderful.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.